Hello, my name is Jeff, and I would like to look at the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Or, what happens if there are never bad things happening to good people? Before I start, I want to clarify, I am not a spiritual leader, and I have never worked for a spiritual organization. I will also not make any references to any spiritual book as far as reading any verses. I want to look at this in a different manner than normal, that I have never heard discussed or talked about before. So why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? To be able to look at or answer this question, several assumptions must be made and several questions have to be asked. The questions that I'm going to look at and that we need to ask are, what God are we talking about? Who are good people? And what are the bad things? And what would be the result of no bad things happening to good people? In America, the first thing to ask is, what God is this person talking about? Because America was started as a Christian nation and Christianity is the dominant religion in America, I'm going to assume that this is the God in which any person would be referring to. I'm not going to answer this question from a spiritual perspective, though, and I'm not going to try to lead you to believe any certain things regarding Christianity or any religion. With that said, if this is the God to which people are referring to when they say that, nothing in the Jewish Bible, Jewish Torah, or any Christian Bible state anything that would lead a person to believe that bad things will not happen to good people. Christianity at its beginning started with a very bad thing happening to a very good or perfect person, and Jesus was killed in the most horrific and awful way since the beginning of written history. The Judaism history is also full of bad things happening to people. The Bible states many times there will be troubled times, and neither the Jewish Torah nor the Christian Bible ever state that bad things will not happen to good people. So, where did you hear and believe this thought that God would never let bad things happen to good people? The second question I believe must be answered is, what is a good person? I would start by responding that based on the assumption that a person is a good person if they do more good things than bad things, or how is this looked at from family members? So it's mostly based on actions, or is it based on feelings and intentions? However, if the person is your family friend or member, no matter what action any person has done, they are still a good person. So looking at this, I'm going to say all people will be considered good people because everybody would be a good person in somebody's eyes. The third question is, what is bad? This is the question that I'm going to look at the most. And my plan is to look at this question in a way, again, that I've never heard about or read before. Who would get to decide what is bad? Obviously, it would be left to each individual person. Let's look at some of the different things that most people think bad is. Obviously, death would be considered the worst thing of all, especially when death happens to younger people or when death occurs in a way like natural disasters, violence, accidents, or diseases like cancer and many other disabilities. However, most people believe death in any manner is awful, even when this happens to people who have lived a good life and are elderly. So, all death will be considered bad. If there is no death, what then is for people? What would life be like if nobody ever dies? Next are going to be disabilities, diseases, illnesses, sicknesses of any kind. Everyone who has a family member who is born or later develops disabilities or illnesses is affected by this. and many people die, and relationships and lives are broken because of occurrences like this. The next events are going to be natural disasters like hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, tsunamis, earthquakes, fires, severe cold or heat. All of those also result in many deaths, in many sicknesses, in many disasters. The next thing I will look at is violence. All people would say violence is terrible, regardless of whether this is in wars, terrorism, evil acts, violent contests like boxing, racing, and other sports that have resulted in death, or even friendly fights that result in injuries. Next would be accidents or wrecks caused by planes, trains, automobiles, motorcycles, bicycles, scooters, trampolines, skateboards, skates, and many other activities that can result in death and have resulted in death, paralysis, broken bones, all the way down to cuts and bruises. Another thing to look at is relationships. Everyone has had broken relationships, whether this is in family, especially like divorce, but also boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, coworkers, employer, employee, coach, player, mentor, student, all the way down to best friends from elementary school. Most people can remember relationships that were devastating when they ended, going all the way back to elementary schools. And what about the person that you liked, but yet they chose someone else or just rejected you altogether? We all can think about relationships that led to horrible things happening, devastating acts and things that happened to people, all the way to suicide. Another thing to look at would be failures, whether they're business failures, career failures, relationship failure, as I discussed, or even trying to learn new activities that you could not accomplish. How often do people begin to believe themselves to be a failure overall because they failed at some activity, event, career, job, or even a game? What about speech? Most of the times, hurtful speech is intentional and designed to hurt the other person. So that speech is obviously bad. And bullying has led to too many suicides and devastation and responses that wound up being hurtful to the bully. Other times, the speaker states words designed to compliment the recipient, but the recipient hears those words as hurtful. No one can read the other person's mind or intentions, so how would speech be affected? Many times, even truthful speech hurts the person being spoken to. There would be no way to do constructive criticism or even tough coaching. Finally, I want to speak about competition. Everyone can remember being very hurt or upset when they or their favorite team lost in a competition that they worked very hard for a long period of time, and they worked at it in order to not lose that contest. While sports would be looked at first, this is by far not the only type. Not getting into college or high school or an elementary school could be devastating. Not getting into a musical or a play or a band or a social or other types of groups or clubs or memberships that you want to be would also be applicable. Not getting scholarships that you worked for and wanted. But also, this would also not be winning awards that you believed you deserved, or a job that you believed you should have gotten, or a mate that you believe is the person for you. Also, I've not included many additional things that have greatly hurt and affected people in awful ways. I've tried to touch on the ones that are the more common. There are many others that you might be thinking of. that are just as much and in many ways more devastating to the people affected than the ones I discussed. And I'm not making light or want to of any type of hurt. As I stated above, many people are devastated because of each item that I discussed. Each hurt, no matter what kind, can be terrible to the person affected. Any person also could say, well, that thing isn't really what we're talking about when we say bad things. Well, mostly this is because each one of the items I've listed has been considered completely horrible when they happen to the person affected, but when it happens to a person or it happens and a person is not affected by it, they don't look at it the same way. Most people, however, can remember back as far as elementary school, things that I have mentioned that have affected and harmed them and changed their lives or way of looking at life for much of their life going forward. Unfortunately, many people have been led to self-harm, drugs, alcoholism, and even suicide because of these exact same things. Many of these people as young as middle and high school age. The important thing I want you to think about is what would life look at if bad things did not happen? There could be no death, no disease or illness, no accidents or natural occurrences, no relationship breakups. Most people would agree that it would be great if those things never happened. But it also means there could be no other competition, whether athletic, academic, musical, or other entertainment. Anything that could cause hurt to any person would not be able to happen. And for the main question, what would life look at in this type of world? Everyone would have to be the same in all comparisons, and life would have to be eternal for all people. What would life on earth be like if only good things happened to everyone? What would we be like? Would we be individuals like we are now? Or would we be robots?